Okay, so we're live. Good evening and welcome everybody to another edition of Weekly Career Class by ITC. Thank you for joining us today. Today's topic is why multidisciplinary curriculum is important from a career perspective. And we are joined by Dr. Dheeraj Sanghi, who's a Vice Chancellor at JK Lakshmipat University. Dr. Sanghi has also been a professor of computer science and engineering at IIT Kanpur during his association of more than 28 years with IIT Kanpur. He has held various leadership positions such as Dean of Academic Affairs, Chairman Senate Undergraduate Committee, Coordinator Industry Affiliate Program, Head of Prabhu Goel Research Center for Computer and Internet Security, to name a few. And thank you for joining us today, sir. It's a great honor to have you for today's webinar. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And I really thank you for giving me this opportunity to reach out to various people. Now, this topic must be a little bit of, people would be curious why this topic. And the reason for that curiosity will be, NEP 2020 talks about multidisciplinary curriculum. And everybody seems to agree, every university seems to be suggesting that they follow multidisciplinary curriculum, right? So where is the debate? Where is the discussion? Why are we, are we wasting time in today's this thing? The reason I'm interested in this topic is that while everybody says that this is great, including universities, including everybody else, nobody really does it. At least, so universities are paying lip service to this, and the students don't want it. Right. And why do students not want it? And why are universities only paying lip service? This is what I want to really explain today in this webinar. Okay. So this is how the webinar will go. We'll look at a typical curriculum, and since I come from computer science background, I'll take a look at the computer science curriculum, but that's not important. We'll see how much of non-computer science component is there in that curriculum, and that's what we will talk about. Right? What's a good curriculum to have? Right? How do we succeed in career? Because at the end of the day, most of us want a degree, not just because we want to learn that thing, but we want to succeed in career. We want a job. We want to be an entrepreneur. We want to do things, right? We will talk about lifelong learning. How do adults learn? How would you learn over the next 50 years? What are the advantages of multidisciplinary curriculum? Why should students who at least at the first instance will say, I don't want to do chemistry, I don't want to do sociology, I don't want to do this or that. Why should they not say that? And we will talk about how this will lead to better solutions, more creativity, following your passion, higher motivation, etc., etc. And of course, there will be Q&A session. And feel free to interrupt me in between as well. I mean, I don't want to wait till the end of this presentation for questions. If you have any questions, write it down, and I'll be forwarded that question.
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely.
All right. So if we look at typical computer science curriculum, right? So you'll find, of course, there will be obviously lots of computer science courses, which is the primary discipline for this degree. You will have courses of programming, data structures, algorithms, operating system, networks, databases, security, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and all. I mean, there will be many more topics like this. There will be several mathematics courses in a typical computer science curriculum. You will do calculus, linear algebra, maybe some advanced calculus, partial differential equation, etc., number theory, graphs, probability and statistics, and many more things. There will be some engineering courses. There will be a workshop. There will be a course on circuits, digital electronics. These days, everybody wants to look at energy and thermodynamics. Again, there may be many more that I'm not listing here. Management courses, economics and finance, communication, general management. This is typically there in most curriculum. And there will be other courses like science, physics, chemistry, environment, which Supreme Court has said we should have, design, humanities, and social science, and all that kind of stuff. So this is a typical curriculum. Different universities will have some modifications to it. Some people will have more CS courses. Some people will have less CS courses. But this is roughly what everybody will have. Now, what is the student view of this curriculum? And this is where multidisciplinary starts. Most students say, if I want to do a BTech in computer science, I only want to do courses which are of computer science or courses which will add value to my computer science courses, right? If there is anything which is prerequisite. And, and this has a problem. And the problem is they don't understand what is useful in the kit. At least a first year computer science student doesn't understand what it entails, what is he going to do over the next 50 years, right? And obviously they don't know what is important for the career because they can't predict the future. Nobody can predict the future. So they also can't predict the future. And therefore it is, and in the rate at which things are changing in the world, we don't know whether chemistry will become suddenly useful 20 years from now, right? So how do we, so the students are saying, look, I only want to understand why am I doing this course? And it is in the context of what is my first job, right? And in fact, if I just talk a little bit different from what I mentioned on this slide, so typically what happens for the student today is our admissions are very, very competitive, right? If you look at the top 100 institutions, again in engineering domain, NITs, IITs, BETs, IITs, etc., who take admission through either BITSAT, JEE Advanced, etc. This is very highly competitive. People start for this admission training in almost 9th class, if not 9th, definitely by 11th class. I mean, most parents and students will do that. And they have a goal in mind. And at the end of 12th class, either they have achieved the goal that they wanted, or they have not, but that goal is over in some sense. I mean, few people will take a drop, but if you ignore this, so the goal is over. Now, psychologically, if you had a goal for which you worked extremely hard, at the end of that period, whether you achieve the goal or not, you need another goal to sustain yourself, to motivate yourself. Now, so think of yourself as if somebody who just entered the college and you are suddenly seeing a vacuum in your life because you don't know why are you in college and what you want to do and so on. So you quickly need to make a goal. And what that goal is, okay, I need a job at the end of this. That's a typical goal. Almost, I would say 95% of the students will think about, and they will even have this thing like, this is the kind of job I want. Now, again, since you were extremely goal-oriented for the last 4 years, now also you're going to be very goal-oriented for the next 4 years. You're not going to look at what will help you in the next 50 years. You will only look at what will help you in achieving the next. And what is the next goal? Let's say a job in IIT Kanpur. And what will help you get there? In your perception, which is probably correct also, what will help you get that job is few skills, programming, data structures, etc. What are the kind of questions people will ask in those interviews? Maybe a little bit of communication, maybe a little bit of personality, maybe so on. But these are the things that you want to focus on, right? Because this is your goal. And this is a problem because you're only looking at the next goal, which you want 4 years from now. You're not thinking about 50 years. And I'm constantly going to keep talking about that. You need to think about 50 years. Right? And what is university's reaction to this? Universities obviously want to keep the student happy because that's how they will make sure that the student says good thing about the university in social media and friends and so on, so that more admissions happen next year. Right? And therefore, they will say, we are only going to have those courses in curriculum, which for some reason are assumed to be relevant to the initial part of it, where somehow the student believes, often wrong, that this is a course which is more important to me in my career than the courses. And we are going to take example of this in the next couple of slides. Of course, there are some good universities who will try to engage with the students, engage with the parents, and they will say why these courses are the need of the hour, in the sense that they will be useful for long-term success of the career.
Before we move on, I would just like to remind our audiences that they can please go ahead and ask all and any question that they would like to ask Dr. Sanghi right here in the chat box. He'll be answering them live. I am so sorry to interrupt you, sir. Please go.
Sure. So, what are the courses? So I said, there are certain courses in the curriculum, and I'm sorry about taking computer science as an example, because that's what I know best. Not sure whether the audience all are interested in science. But in a computer science program, we often have a course, as I said, on linear algebra or partial differential equations or analog and digital circuits. And so in fact, in all the institutions that I have been, typically at the end of 4 years, we take a feedback of the student, of, how the last 4 years were, what did they think about positive, negative, etc. And one of the things that I'm always surprised about, and probably shouldn't be surprised about, is they all will say, I don't know why I studied chemistry. Or I don't know why I studied sociology. I don't know why I studied engineering drawing, right? They never say, I don't know why I studied linear algebra, why I studied partial differential equations. So there is some reason which at least I don't understand. Students are convinced that any maths course is somehow relevant to computer science. And I've been a professor of computer science for 28 years. I don't see how they're relevant to at least the first job that you're talking, right? Or analog and digital circuits. How are they relevant for the first job? They're not, right? If you're only going to look at a very narrow definition of relevance, very narrow definition of usefulness, then they are not useful courses. Okay. In fact, what is relevant for the first job or what is useful for the first job can be taught in 6 months, right? Pretty much any job in software industry, I can train you in 6 months. You only need some programming, some data structures, algorithms, and maybe a little bit of basic maths, some logic, etc., etc. All that can be very easily done in 6 months, right? So I think people who say university should only teach relevant and useful things, and again, relevance and useful being considered in the context of the first job alone and not 50 years, they should ask themselves, why are they here in the university for a 4-year degree program? Because universities don't teach you what is relevant in the immediate future. Right? In fact, there is, again, as an aside, there are a lot of people in the world who seriously think that 6 months is all they should learn after 12th class. And I have no, contest with them, or I'm not challenging them. They have their own viewpoint. And in fact, a lot of people are, afraid that this could be a threat to the university model all over the world in things to come, that people will say, 12th class is enough and I'll just do whatever I need to learn, just-in-time learning, just like it used to be for supply chain, just-in-time arrival of goods. So today, a lot of people are talking about just-in-time learning. I don't want to do a degree, but so that's a threat to my existence in some sense, but we'll deal with it when it happens. But I think students should think about that. If relevance in the short term is the issue, why they are even talking about a 4-year degree. Okay.
Right.
So what is a good curriculum? Now, people will often say a curriculum is good if all the important topics are part of the curriculum, right? And, long time ago, maybe about 20 years ago, in IIT Kanpur, we were having this curriculum workshop. We have this major revision of curriculum every time, where we invite people from all over the world and to guide us and help us in determining the major curriculum. And then, of course, we have an yearly review of that curriculum, which are minor reviews. Right? Now, there was this professor from MIT, and so he was suggesting that some courses we drop from our compulsory set of topics. Right? And I said, isn't networks a very important thing for computer science to learn at that time? Today, people don't think networks is that important, but at least at that time, it was a very hot topic. Right? And so he told me this, and I really now just keep saying this in all my talks. He said, this question that is network important for graduates of computer science is a wrong question. Why is this a wrong question? He said, obviously, if you ask me the question like that, I will say, yes, it is. Okay. Then you will going to ask me a question, is compilers important for computer science? I'm going to say yes. Is databases important for computer science? It's yes. Is cloud computing important for computer science? I'll say yes. You can ask me 20 such questions and I'll say yes to all those 20 questions. What are you going to do with this? So are you going to put all those 20 courses as compulsory courses of computer science program? And in fact, if you see, that is how curriculum is often designed. And so before I come to the right question, so I said, how do you design this curriculum? So he said, let me tell you one thing. People who teach too much are often poor quality. And at least at that time, I think now the curriculum in India has significantly improved over the last 20 years. And I think we're doing a much better job today. But at that time, he said, if somebody were to apply for a MTech admission, MS admission in MIT, and we have never heard of this university before, so we can't evaluate this student in terms of if it's a great university and he has 9.0 out of 10, then probably want to give him admission and so on. How will we think that is this a good university or not? So he said, I'm going to look at his, grade card or transcript. And firstly, I will see how many courses are taught. Now, if the more courses are taught, then it's a poor quality university. That's number one. And, it comes as a shock to us, but that's how he said. And he then pointed out, he said, if you look at the MIT curriculum, again, we're talking about 20 years ago, today things might have changed a little bit here and there. He said MIT has 32 typical courses for graduation requirement. If you look at the best colleges in US, Stanford, MIT, Cornell, and so on, they probably will have 34 courses requirement for graduate. If you look at decent colleges, universities of US, it will say 36 courses for graduation. If you look at IITs in those days, 40, 42, 43 courses to graduate. If you look at NITs, 48, 49 courses to graduate. If you look at, affiliated colleges in those days, now things have improved, as I said, significantly, 55 to 60 courses to graduate. So he says you can look around the world and typically anybody who teaches you more is teaching you poor quality. Okay. And the second thing he said was, I will look at what kind of courses you teach. If there are too many skills courses, then you are doing spoon feeding, you're not teaching. I will consider a university which has more basic courses as a better university, because basic courses will ensure your success over a long period of time. And the third thing he said is, what is the fraction of CS courses versus non-CS courses? So he says in MIT at that time, out of 32 courses, only 8 courses were to be CS. You could do 24 non-CS courses to get a Bachelor of Computer Science from MIT. And I was like, I can't believe this. Because I think at that time we were teaching about 20 CS courses in our curriculum. After this discussion, we reduced that to about 13 or so. But that's how Indian curriculum used to be. So then this all got distilled down to that the question to ask whether to put a course in curriculum or not is, will something be awfully incorrect if one student graduates in discipline without doing that course? So for example, if one student graduates without doing a computer networks course, is this, will heavens fall? And he said, if you ask that question, then for most questions, the answer will be no. And therefore, they should not be part of compulsory thing. Yes, heavens will fall if the person doesn't know programming. Yes, the heavens will fall if the person doesn't know data structures. Yes, the heavens will fall if the person doesn't know algorithms. Pretty much that's it. Maybe 2-3 more courses. So that's all the core is in computer science. Rest everything could be electives. Whether you do it or not do it, doesn't matter, right? So most top universities will teach much fewer courses, and most courses are basic in nature and not about technology or skills. Okay. So the curriculum should be such that we prepare our students not for the first job of the career, but the last job of the career.
Absolutely.
And this is something that people, again, don't think about. People think about first job, right? Now, typically a student who is entering university is 17, 18, 19 years of age. Okay. They are going to be working for at least 50 years from that point, right? I mean, in fact, today, I don't see people, retiring before 70. But by the time the student who is entering college today is 70, the medical science would have ensured that they can work till 80. Okay. So the chances are that the student who's entering college today is going to be doing a job 55, 60 years from now. Okay. Now, is there anything that we can teach today that will be relevant 50 years from now, 55 years from now? And one way to think about this is, what was taught by the universities 55 years ago, is that relevant today? Anything that you use today, is this something that was taught in the universities 55 years ago? And the question is no. Answer is no, right? Whatever we do today was really, people could not imagine 50 years ago that such a world will be, in future, right? So what are the ways in which we want to ensure success of our students, for the continuous period of 50 years and not just focus on the first job? The most important thing about the career is learning how to learn. Okay, because you will need to learn new things all the time, particularly in today's world, right? And it doesn't matter in only computer science. I mean, if you're a chartered accountant, for example, every budget will have a new set of rules. Every month, the RBI will come up with new this thing, right? You need to learn every day in most jobs, unless you're doing just a laborer job, he probably doesn't need to learn as much, but most people will need to continuously learn throughout their career. Okay. And therefore, in a good curriculum, you would have projects, because when people do things by hand, they learn and they know how to learn, because they know that they can, even in future, they can keep doing projects about whatever new topic they want to learn. Similarly, at least, in our curriculum or our university, we insist from our students that you should do some online self-learning courses on your own. I mean, we are not even going to put them on your transcript, but in the summer break or winter break or so on, we provide, free Coursera access to all our students. And we insist that you must do this, because learning on your own without the faculty being there is the most important skill in life that will, hold you good for next 50 years. There are other things like critical thinking. I mean, that's extremely important. That's a skill that you will never forget. That will never be, out of fashion. And multidisciplinary, of course, and I'll explain to you why multidisciplinary. We haven't come to that yet. A lot of flexibility electives. Again, I'm going to talk about some of that on industry readiness. And this is interesting in terms of, industry readiness. Again, what most poor quality universities will say, what is industry readiness? Oh, this is the technology which is very popular today. So figuring out how this technology works or becoming an expert in this technology is industry, right? If Flutter is something that Google is promoting, then if I do Flutter, I'll get a job.
Absolutely.
And yes, people will get job with that technology, right? But will you last 50 years with that technology? Right? So what is very interesting in industry readiness is that most people, most universities talk to these lower level employees who come for the campus placement. And these lower level employees will tell you, only if you knew Java, we would have given you a job. Or only if you knew this technology or that technology, we would have given you a job, right? But if you talk to the senior people, which unfortunately most universities won't have access to, then what happens is these people will say, look, industry readiness means, can you learn new technology or new skill in 2 weeks? That's what, the senior people in industry will tell you, right? So again, a good curriculum, a good university will say, I don't want to focus on, I mean, I might do a couple of courses which are technology basis. That's okay. But my focus really ought to be, how will you keep learning for the rest of your life? That should be the focus, because 50 years is a very long time. Okay. The other thing that, at a university level we should do is, and students hardly know about careers in 12th class, right? And they really choose their programs based on what their peers are saying, what their neighbors are saying, what their teachers are saying, and so on. And unfortunately, most of this community that they are talking to don't know enough about careers either. And even if they know about careers, often they don't know what will be interesting to students. As I said, typically in engineering, from where I come, people just focus on JEE for 3 to 4 years.
Absolutely, sir.
They have no idea about other things. I mean, they have nothing. So therefore, universities must not force a program. Universities must say, look, you can decide today you want to do BTech computer science, but 1 year later you might want to do BTech in ASI, BTech in electrical. Whatever. I think that flexibility should be there in the university, but we are just, again, going different from the topic. All right, now let's talk. Yeah, is there a question?
Yeah, so one question that has been very persistently floating around has been that, how parents taking advice from their peers and their friends and the family often tend to push their kids towards taking a science course through their high school. and then the student goes on to pursue engineering, but then 4 years later realizes that they have no interest in that choice of subject. So how do they kind of discover, how do they chart out a path for, say, an alternate career? And is there a way within these 4 years where they can kind of pivot to a different career field altogether?
Yeah. So there are two things I would suggest. Firstly, I think you really don't need to plan for JEE and stuff like that. I think 2 years of coaching is enough for most students who are going to eventually succeed in JEE, right? So 9th and 10th should be the time frame where parents should allow, or in fact insist, that students should do multiple things. And 9th and 10th are low. I mean, 10th board is important, but not so important, right? So I always suggest to students and parents that 9th and 10th should be exploratory. Talk to different people in different fields. Go and visit places, industry or whatever. You would have uncles and aunts in your neighborhood who work in different kind of places. Talk to them, right? So I think firstly, 9th and 10th should be exploratory, and that should determine your interest to a large extent, right? Now, coming to college, I think in first year, when students live separately, often in hostel and so on, and that is the time when they try to explore their own interests, etc. If they are very sure that they don't want what the current thing they're admitted to, right? It should not be a very flippant kind of decision. I got a bad grade in one of the exam and therefore I want to give this up. So it has to be a serious discussion. So I think parents should encourage a serious discussion with their wards. And if the ward says, look, I don't like this, then it should not be a matter of reputation or prestige that, what will Sharmaji say kind of thing, right? I mean, it's okay. And 1 year, even if it is wasted, it's not wasted. If you get into the right career, right place where you will enjoy the next 50 years, it's much better to do that than, this 1 year wasted. These days, people are living up to 100 years. 1 year here and there makes no difference whatsoever. In fact, I would say even if after the degree, after 3 or 4 years, the student says, okay, got a degree, but I really want to be a lawyer or I really want to be somewhere else. What is good about today's India is that there are jobs available in all fields to good people. There are no jobs available to poor quality people. Okay. There is a serious shortage of people in this country, good people, right? So if you are good at anything, right, you will have a job. That is very clear. And therefore, you don't have to worry about that if this guy gets into music or history or geography or whatever, then will he or she have a job? Of course, they will have a job if they are good. Okay, that's something that we need to gain confidence about. We need the role models around us to say, yes, there are jobs in every field, right? But I would not force. I can only suggest to parents, and we don't force your student, your ward, to do things which they don't want or they are not interested in. And you should be able to have a deep conversation, because it should, as I said earlier, it should not be you got 1 F grade and now you block it. So it should not be that flippant decision. And therefore, there has to be communication between the parents and the student, which is deeper.
Great. Thank you, sir. Thank you for that answer.
Now, how does one succeed in career? I think if you really want to reach the top, you really want to be, very, very successful in whatever field, there are 2 ways to reach the top. One is become the best at what. If you are, a programmer, you are the best programmer you're in the top 1 or 2%. So people are going to pay you crore of rupees to get you to program, right? Or you can be very good at 2 or more things. Okay. Now, because this combination becomes rare. So what happens is when you're very good at, let's say, computer science and music, okay, this combination of computer science and music is with very few people. And if you are in the top 25% in music and top 25% in computer science, you are already in the top 1 or 2% of those people who are interested in computer science and music, right? So, and for most people, the second option would be easier to achieve. Okay. Yes, there will be some people who are just deeply passionate about one topic. They should continue to try to become the best in that one thing. I'm not saying that everybody should become good at two things, right? You become the best in one thing if you're really passionate about it, really, please go ahead, right? But for most people, the second option where you are good at two things, but you're not the best in either of them, I mean, that is easier to achieve. But you haven't thought about it consciously because, we haven't given you a chance to think about it, or you haven't, really been exposed to this model. But most people are successful because of this model. Okay. Now, becoming very good at one thing, you're very good at top 25% in one thing, you will get a job. Of course, as I said, there is a serious shortage of people in every discipline, right? But that's not the job, that will take you to pinnacle of your career, right? So either become the best or become very good at or multiple things, right? And since for most people, the second option is easier to achieve, where will that second thing come? I mean, first thing your parents decided or whoever decided that you should do BTech in computer science, or you should do chartered accountancy, or you should do whatever. That, in 12th class, somebody decided for you, along with you maybe. But where will the second field come from? So this is where the multidisciplinary education will be very important. Multidisciplinary education means that you are being exposed to a lot of different disciplines, which of course initially I said in most CS curriculum, there are courses from science, from maths, from electrical, from this. So it will help you find that second area in which you have an interest and you can be very good at.
Got it.
Now, what is multidisciplinary curriculum? So this is what we started with, saying, look, everybody today is talking about multidisciplinary. So isn't every program multidisciplinary already? Why am I doing this webinar? We have already said all computer science programs in the country have courses from math, science, engineering, humanities, social science, etc., etc. Aren't all programs multidisciplinary already, right? So the answer to this question is yes and no. In some sense, on paper, everybody is multidisciplinary. They have always been, at least last 20 years. Right? But I think the difference is if you focus on multidisciplinary, then you will do things somewhat different. Universities pay lip service to multidisciplinary. They don't really want you to be a multidisciplinary because students don't understand and they don't demand this. Right? The difference in various programs is to what degree you are multidisciplinary and what is your focus, right? So universities are doing multidisciplinary curriculum because there are draft curriculum which is produced by organizations like AICT, and I want to align myself with that. And AICT curriculum will have course from mathematics, science, engineering, humanities, etc., etc. So I have those courses in my curriculum and so on. But if you really see their curriculum, compare that with, those universities which are truly multidisciplinary. For example, I would consider most IITs to be multidisciplinary, but IIT Kanpur is very special. I mean, the amount of multidisciplinarity they focus on is a lot more. So look at IIT Kanpur curriculum and look at this university curriculum, and you will see the difference. The number of courses from outside the discipline will be less. So if you are 40 courses as a BTech, for example, some universities will say, I want to do 21, 22, 23 courses in computer science and 17, 18 courses outside the computer science from this math, science, engineering, so on and so forth, right? On the other hand, if you look at IIT Kanpur, they will probably say, I want to do 15 courses in computer science and 25 courses from outside. And that difference is useful and important. Okay. The other thing that these universities will do, who don't really, feel that multidisciplinary is important and they're only paying lip services, that when we talk about non-computer science or non-major discipline, whichever discipline you're doing your major in, because they don't consider non-major courses as useful, therefore they will say, what's the point of offering elective in these useless slots, right? So if I have to do a course in humanities and social science, they'll say, let me think about what can I convince a student to do from the perspective of near-term usefulness. So I think if I do industrial psychology, I can probably convince him that if he works on the shop floor, dealing with workers will become easier. So maybe that's the course I will offer, or whatever I can convince. And since these are useless slots, I'm not going to increase my cost by offering electives. So this is the other difference you will find in universities which pay lip service versus universities which really focus on multidisciplinary. And also, this is the third point is very difficult to judge from an outsider, but often they will be taught by poorer faculty because they're useless courses. So why should I bring in a more expensive, better teacher for this course? This is something that we need to do for reasons that it is a part of IIT curriculum, compliance, or whatever you would call it, and therefore they will not be taught by a good faculty. So therefore, not all multidisciplinary curriculums are same. In fact, they are not. I mean, they're very, very different, even though at some level, every program is multidisciplinary. But I think the focus of the university on multidisciplinary will make a big difference to your life when you study there. And these are the ways in which you can judge. And I'm going to repeat this after a couple of slides, because I think this is the most important meat of the whole presentation. Okay, so this I think we have already talked about. So how much of what a student learns in terms of technical knowledge and skills be relevant after 10 years? Very little. You already said this. When will a person retire from an active job? At least 50 years from the date of joining college, maybe 60 years, by the time these people are of that age group. And how one will survive if most things learned at the university will be soon obsolete. So lifelong learning is really what we should focus on. I think we have already said this, so I will skip this slide. All right, I think this is a very important. How does adult learning take place? Okay, so if we are going to do lifelong learning, right, then how can you make it easier to learn for next years? And for this, we need to understand adult learning. Now, adult learning does not take place by repetition. Why am I saying this? If you look at a small child, right, everything that they want to learn, they do hundreds of times. Whether they want to start learning walking, they will keep falling, keep walking, keep falling, keep walking, and so on, right? Even when you learn your multiplication in class 1, you would have done these tables, right? 2 into 2 is 4, 2 into 3 is 6, 2 into 4 is 8. You would have done this hundreds of times, right? So you learn as a child by repetition, okay? But adults don't learn by repetition. Adults, I mean, if I were to learn new thing and somebody sends me a YouTube video, I will not see this YouTube video twice, at least not third time. And if it is really, really interesting and the topic is really something I want to learn, maybe I'll see that twice. But I don't think any of us listen to YouTube videos, at least not at this age group, multiple times. So, I didn't get this point, so let me go through this again. That doesn't happen. So how do we learn? We learn by connecting the dots. Whatever new thing I'm listening to or watching or reading, I'm always thinking, how is this similar to what I already know, or how is this connected to something that I already know, right? And therefore, the more dots there are, the more things I already know, the easier it is to connect those dots, which means the easier it is to learn new things. Okay. So if you have a variety of knowledge in your brain, if you know something about a lot of things, it will make it easier for you to learn new things. And you don't know the future. So you don't know what dots will be more important, what topics will be more important a few decades from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now. Right? So, of course, you can't learn everything that could possibly be important 20 years from now, because you don't even know what will be important 20 years from now. But the best thing you can do, the best insurance policy you have is just pick up several things, right? So that is the reason why when we design curriculum, we put 10 different things. Now it also means that those different things need not be same for everybody. And that's where, in the previous slide, when we talk about that the poor quality universities will often make it compulsory for you to learn those non-computer science things, right? Which was wrong, because while I want you to have a wide variety of knowledge, I don't want to force that wide variety of knowledge. I don't want to say chemistry is important. If you think biology is more important, or you are interested in biology, because I have no way to say that 20 years from now, will chemistry be more important or biology be more important? I don't know. So it should be completely up to you to choose. The only thing I should force on you is you have to take courses from multiple disciplines. That is something I will force on you, because I know that connecting the dots is important and wide variety of topics are important. But what those wide variety of topics are, I don't want to second guess. I don't think I'm an astrologer, right? And therefore, a good university should say, you need wide variety of courses, but you decide what is that wide variety, right? So just pick up several different things. What you pick up is not important as much. And if you read about successful people, you will know that they know things from several disciplines. They can talk about a lot of different topics at any point in time. They are multidisciplinary, right? So success is a direct cause of multidisciplinary. Now, in a university, when you know different disciplines, or this is even outside the university, it will lead to better solutions. I'm giving a very trivial example, right? So most problems today need input from multiple disciplines. Ideas from different disciplines can help in coming up with better solutions. And the trivial example that I have is, if I were to ask you to write a program which takes an input number n, and it outputs a sum of number 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 up to n. This is the output. This is a very trivial problem, right? Right. A naive solution that a programmer will do is will say, okay, let's initialize this variable called sum to 0, read n, and then I'll keep adding 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up to n to sum, and I will print the sum. Right? This is the first program that I will write. But if you remember a bit of maths, a bit of mensuration, and algebra, and you know that the sum of n numbers is n into n plus 1 by 2. So you read the second program, which is read n, print n into n plus 1 by 2. That's it. There is no for loop. There is no whatever. So the first solution will take, for a large n, will take significantly more time to compute the number than compared to the second program. You made the program extremely efficient. Okay. And you needed less memory to run this program as well, right? So, the fact that you knew a little bit of maths helped you to design a better program. So similarly, knowledge of different disciplines often will lead to better solutions. And when you have these better solutions with you, you will feel happier about doing those projects. When you're doing a project and you see a good solution, people are saying, wow, this is something that will make an impact. You feel nicer and you will actually feel motivated and you work hard. So you learn more. So there is a course in JKLU that we call as Integrating Technology Design and Management. Okay, so in this, there are students from BTech, students from design, and students from bachelors in business management. All three of them jointly do this course. And there are teams which need to build a product to be prototyped over a semester. Okay. So now management students will give inputs on how marketing and sales will happen. For example, design students will give inputs on usability, material, look and feel, to some extent sustainability and all that. Engineering students will actually make it, if it is a software thing, whatever, but they all work together. Right? Right. Now, since all three of these kind of people are working together, often these are the best projects in the university. So the students are doing this, they know it. I mean, when any visitor will come, we'll showcase these projects, right? So there's a huge demand for such a course, and we are, of course, very selective. Students spend huge amount of time on this course compared to others, right? So the fact that your product is better because there's a design input and there's a management input, your learning is far better. In fact, now what happens is that after this course, people, we also, who are engineering students, teach design and management courses. So to some extent, they can, in their own projects, even without this teamwork, they can start making it better because they have the design input and they have the management. Once you do a good job of a project, you feel nicer, you learn better. So good, big motivation and impact. And when why is your solution better? Because of multidisciplinary. Because you know design, you know management. This also improves creativity. In fact, there is a lot of research which says that if you're exposed to multidisciplinary education, your creativity improves. I mean, a lot of people believe that creativity is something innate, something that you're born with. But a lot of other people believe that a lot of people are able to come up with creative solutions because they've been exposed to a lot of different ideas. And you are exposed to different ideas if you're studying different topics. And this is probably my last slide. And as I said, this is kind of repeat of what we have said earlier. So which programs are multidisciplinary? Every program is to some extent, right? So how would you judge whether a university is truly believing in multidisciplinary programs, or is it only paying lip service? Because everybody is talking about multidisciplinary. So the first question you should ask from universities is, do they offer a dual major or minor? A dual major is that I'm doing BTech Computer Science, but I can also do 10 more courses in mechanical or robotics, or whatever. Right. And therefore my degree says Computer Science and Robotics. The minor program means that I'm not going to do 10 courses in that, but only 4 courses. So it will say BTech in Computer Science with a minor in robotics or whatever, right? So do the universities offer such program where there is either a major or a minor along with the primary discipline? Okay. So what is happening in most universities, frankly, is the specialization within the primary discipline is very common. So people doing BTech Computer Science can specialize in cloud computing, can specialize in security, can specialize in artificial intelligence. But offering a minor in something outside the discipline is not very common, because as I said, they're really not believing in this multidisciplinary culture. The second question to ask is, what fraction of curriculum is from outside the primary discipline, right? So if primary discipline takes up more than 50% of the curriculum, so if there are 40 courses in the curriculum and primary discipline is taking 20-21, I think I will be a little bit wary of this program. This is not a multidisciplinary program that I want. And the third question to ask is, do they offer electives among the courses outside the primary discipline? Right. If it is all compulsory, then they don't believe in this, and you will not learn multidisciplinary, right? A true multidisciplinary university will allow students to decide on what they want to study. On paper, many universities will have elective slot, but they will offer only one course in that elective slot. That's not multidisciplinary form. Okay. So thank you very much. And if there are any questions, you can ask me now or send me email later. I'll be happy to.
In fact, we do have a couple questions before we wrap up. And before we do, I would just like to remind our audiences that in case you have any, questions or queries regarding any kind of courses or any kind of colleges or universities or about any kind of entrance exams, you can just either go to the link in the chat box or scan this QR code. You will be redirected to iDreamCareer's web app, where you'll be able to get resolutions to all your questions just a click away. First of all, thank you so much, sir. You've been very insightful and you've been of great help to us. In fact, to all the parents and students watching here, I think this kind of formative developmental discussions what is absolutely necessary for us to give a very holistic growth to our young students, young children across. Because I being a student myself, absolutely struggled in my formative years to kind of figure out a pathway to where I would eventually go. And I started off as a science student and eventually have ventured into economics, and now I'm working in marketing. So it took me a lot of ways to get to the career path that I've actually arrived at eventually. So thank you so much. I wish something so insightful was available to me years ago, but I'm sure you'll be very helpful to all our students who are watching. The first question I have is from Raghav. He says that he's a science student who also completed a degree in computer science engineering and has been working in IT for the past 8 years. He never felt that it was his calling. Never felt that it was something that he was born to do, and wants to pivot his career, wants to start over, and has no idea how to. So given that he spent so much time doing the same kind of thing over and over again over a period of years, how can he start over?
So I think it's a dilemma that a lot of people today are facing. Many people are saying, I'm in this job because I need a job. And I'm really not very interested in doing this day after day. Now, you need to firstly think about what excites you. Okay.
Absolutely.
And believe that India today provides opportunity in whatever excites you. Because, a lot of people who are in software industry today, they are they are feeling like this. This is not the only one I've heard, right? And what is the solution they come up with? Let's do an MBA. I mean, the number of people from IT industry going for MBA is such a large number that I'm like, what happens in IT industry that people are forced to do it, right? Now, and then what happens is that, again, only a few, maybe 10,000 people will get into top colleges, right? Next set of people will go into poor quality colleges. They will have another poor degree to post, and they will have another poor job, and they will not be satisfied with that job. So I think first of all, don't do something which the crowd is doing. Do something because you are interested. So if you are working here for 8 years, there must be something that you say is exciting. Next is, today you don't have to leave your job to learn that. So suppose, let's go completely out of IT. Law is something that interests you. Right. Find out some good, interesting law courses online. I think if you go to most US universities will have such courses, at least the glimpse of these courses will be available and all that, right? Do 1 or 2 courses. I mean, often these things are free, right? And that will tell you whether you really are excited about it. Okay. If that excitement doesn't stand, then you say, okay, what am I thinking about? Try something else. And it's just doing 1 or 2 courses. So, you can figure this out every month. Every month you can try another topic and see. So 2-3 months, you will know what really excites you. Okay. Once you know what excites you, you can do an online degree. Again, you don't need to leave your job. If it is really heavy, maybe you want to reduce a number of hours where you can tell your company that I'm not going to work 5 days a week, I'll work 4 days a week or something. But you have some earning for the family and you can do this thing simultaneously. Only after you complete your degree, that is when you look for a job in that discipline. So, therefore you don't need a lot of savings. You don't need to put yourself in a situation that, your family needs money and all that. So today is possible. 20 years ago, it wasn't possible. That's what I will suggest.
Right. Got it. Another question is that, would you have any kind of an overview on, how one can make their path through a marketing career? We have Priyanka, who's a marketing student, asking us that. In case you could just shine some light on that.
Not really. I don't know much about marketing career. So specific about a career, I think you are marketing. You should be able to answer that question better than me.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, I'll skip that. I somehow don't want to answer questions about which I don't know enough.
Fair enough. And that's absolutely fair.
But yeah,
that's absolutely fair. So in fact, if I could give my 2 cents, marketing is very lucrative. In fact, with the advent of various marketing tools and various ways of marketing, I think it's a very lucrative career. It's just that we need to be very skillful in field of marketing and just not be jack of all trades, master of none. Pick your niche and stick to it. And it can be digital marketing, it can be social media marketing, it can be SEO, and you just pick your niche and just keep on working towards it, and you will make a name for yourself. You will be able to build a career out of it. Is what I believe. And that's one way of doing it. The last question we have, sir, and we'll probably be wrapping up after this, is from a parent. In fact, they say that they have their son who's studying in the 8th grade, and they're quite worried about what stream they should be choosing in the 11th and the 12th grade for them. How can they ensure that the choice of stream kind of promotes holistic growth for their child? While they have been getting recommendations from their friends and family about taking sciences because that seems to be the best career path taking forward. Science opens a lot of doors is the answer everyone gives when asked about if science is the right choice. So what is the child like? How should they go about choosing a stream for their child?
It's true that science opens a lot more doors because if you look at what a history student can do, if you have taken history in 11th and 12th, or arts in general, you can't get into engineering after, right? So after science you can get into history, but after history you can't get into physics, right? Absolutely. But if you are not liking physics, or if you're not liking chemistry, okay, I mean your 11th and 12th can be really disastrous, and you don't want your ward to continuously feel that, and now I can tell you that, I had a similar situation. My entire family, my brothers, sisters, and so on, everybody comes from a science background and engineers, doctors, etc. And my daughter, in 7th and 8th, she was like, I don't like maths. Everything else is okay, but I don't like maths. Okay? So for some months, we tried to convince her that she was good at maths and it was whatever. But after a while, we said, look, let's explore, what are the various things that you really like? And in 8th, 9th, and 10th, we said, okay, regarding history, for example, we visited a lot of historical monuments, museums, etc. And said, do you really enjoy coming here, talking about this, reading about this, that? We went to multiple places, sports, this, that. They said, I will introduce you to 10 different kinds of people, right?
Right.
And then you decide what you want to do in 11th class. So as a parent, initially I was like, yeah, I'm supposed to be so good at math. My daughter should do maths, right? So we did try to spend a couple of months just trying to, I wouldn't say use the word force, but yes, convince her maths is so important. But after I was convinced that she will not be, happy with maths, then we said, okay, let's figure out what is her interests are. And as I said in my main webinar, also, expose them to a lot of different fields, a lot of different places, a lot of different people, and they will come up with what their interest is. And today, if you're good at something, you will have a job. Don't worry about whether this is a great career or not. Everything is a great career. You just need
Right.
to
So
work
in
hard.
fact, that's a very unique way of looking at this, is that if you subject your child to a lot more of experiences and then allow them to pick what seems to be the best fit for them, that will actually bring them up in a very holistically better off than their peers, and then in a way that they are very more interested in the kind of path that they choose. They will actually enjoy doing what they're doing or learning what they're learning. So I say that's a very great way of looking at this. So thank you so much for that. And that brings us to the end of all the questions we had. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for taking out this time to join us today. You've been an absolutely fabulous speaker and have been very insightful to our audience here. And we hope to get you back on board again. Thank you so
Thank
much for your time, sir. And thank you
you.
to everyone who joined us today. I hope you found this session very insightful. And in case you still have any questions or queries, you can just scan the QR code and you'll be redirected to iDreamCareer's web app, where you'll be able to ask a question to our expert career counselors and get answers right away. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Great, sir.